Check, check. Give me a second. We'll get started in 1 minute. For those of you watching on YouTube, if anybody has any questions, you can go ahead, type them in. Shalom, just give me a second. We're going to get started in a minute. Shalom, y'all. I'm just making Shalom, yo. I'm just making sure everything's set up on mine. I'm doing a couple of technical checks right now, but this is going to be the class every Wednesday from Boston. We're also on YouTube right now as well. We're on Boston's new YouTube channel, which is Boston No Cowards. So if y'all haven't, go ahead and subscribe. And then we'll go from there. Just got to check 2 more things and then we're going to begin. So just bear with me 1 second. All right, so before we get started, because I do have a topic today, anybody have any questions in the room? I'm going to go ahead and check YouTube. And if y'all on Clubhouse and you have any questions, just unmute, say Salakia, and then we'll go from there. Give me 1 second. I'm just checking YouTube and Facebook. I have somebody else who's trying to get on here as well. They're saying they can't find the room. This room was publicly visible, right?
Con.
Okay, Most High in Christ. Just making sure. Just give me 2 more minutes and then we'll get started, all right? Check. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to get into today was, I just got to pull this one thing up on Google Drive and then we're going to go ahead and get started. But one of the main things that I wanted to go over was, we were having a discussion the other day about the privatization of the prison system, the things that had actually transpired with, you know what I'm saying, like Reagan all the way on down, and basically how we fell for the okie doke. You know what I'm saying? Like basically how they had destroyed us by removing our brothers, our men from the house, because the scriptures say that you can't enter into a strong man's house unless you first bind up the strong man. All right. So I have an article that I want to get into on the prison system, exactly what they did, how these things transpired, and then also show like these things are not new. They've been going on in the scriptures as well. All right. All right. Any of y'all available to read right now? Speaking directly to Clubhouse, y'all the only ones who's connected audio.
Con, I think I can read, Cap.
I'd appreciate you.
I'm at the slave, sir.
Okay, no sweat. If any of y'all can't, you know what I'm saying, y'all could just go ahead and you know what I'm saying, just listen. If y'all can, would be much appreciated, all right? But we're going to go ahead and go to Psalms 83. And we're going to start at, we'll start at verse 1. Kabad, if you could, when you got it, read it.
God, so this is the book of Psalms, chapter 83, and verse 1. It says, "Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God."
Go ahead.
For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
You understand that we're supposed to be the head. You understand? But they that hate us have become head over us. And this is the main thing that we got to understand. We can't worry about politicians. We can't worry about politics. We can't worry about any of these things when it comes down for us to be able to call on the Lord. You understand? Those are the type of things that get him to not help us when we think we could run to America or run to anybody else. You understand? When you go back into ancient Egypt, the reason why the Lord had mercy on us was because our prayers went up to him. And this is a psalm talking about how we need the Lord to destroy our enemies. All right? And it says that they make a tumult, man. They making noise down here. Read on, Baba Kasha.
Salaki, my bad. This is verse 4. They have said, "Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance."
Now, this is something that not only happens present day, but this is something that happened in the time of David, and this is something that happened prior to. The Egyptians was trying to cut us off from being a nation long before David was ever on the scene. Every nation has had conspiracy against us. Every nation has been confederate against us. Continue.
Salakis. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee.
You understand? They are confederate against thee with one consent. This is how the Arabs are in our neighborhood. The Chinese are in our neighborhood. This is why every single nation on the planet has a byword against us. They have all these different things. You understand? Like it says that the beast of the field have devoured our flock. All right. And one of the things that they did was, I'm going to read this article and I'm going to try to paint an extremely vivid picture here. All right. So I have an article here that I'm going to read, right? So human rights organizations, as well as political and social ones, are condemning what they are calling a new form of inhumane exploitation in the United States. They're saying that a prison population of up to 2 million, mostly black and Hispanic, are working for various industries for pittance. For the tycoons who have invested in the prison industry, it has been like finding a pot of gold. They don't have to worry about strikes, paying unemployment, insurance, vacations, or comp time. All of their workers are full-time and never arrive late or are absent because of family problems. Moreover, if they don't like the pay of 25 cents an hour and refuse to work, they are locked up in isolation cells. Like this is like directly like when you read about in Isaiah the 14th chapter, when it says he opened up not the house of his prisoners. You understand? Like they have us. Hold on, let me invite this brother on stage. All right, they have us in captivity, but now you understand, once again, through various forms of slave labor in the prison industrial complex, they have us working for pittance, 25 cents an hour. You understand? Some people make less than that. Sometimes they pay you 75 cents a day. This is literal slavery that you're witnessing today. And all of this was able to happen. Like General Muhammad said this a while back, where he's like, without drugs, you understand, you couldn't have America. Meaning like our crime is why there's Disney World. Our crime is why this place lives deliciously, because they're paying for pittance when it comes down to labor. And that's because slavery was only ratified in the Constitution under one clause: you didn't commit a crime. That's why and if I ask a question, you know what I'm saying, like y'all can chime in if you can, but you know what I'm saying, like for example, y'all ever see the movie Life with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence?
Con.
You know what I mean? Like them brothers did life in prison, and if you noticed, they were on something similar to a plantation. You understand? Like where they moved the road work, you know what I'm saying? They farmed the land. And then eventually when they got old enough, you know what I'm saying, they took them out the field, put them in the house, and they were serving that other devil. You know what I mean? And then right before they were going to get pardoned, you know what I'm saying, he died on the damn toilet. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what you start to see is that slavery never directly ended. It just became sophisticated. So we experience a little bit more liberties outside of the prison system. But when you take a look at how we live today, it's really no difference than the plantation. You know what I mean? We would live in shanties, you understand, poor, impoverished conditions. You understand, that massa built for us. Well, that's the projects. You know what I'm saying? That's public housing right there. All stacked together, all on top of each other, you know what I'm saying? Very, very small little stove that we cook on, so on and so forth. When we wanted clothes, Massa gave you just a little bit extra cotton for you to spin, or he just gave you a sack. You know what I mean? Now you take a look at us, and whether it's Primark, whether it's Gucci, whatever the case may be, Tommy Hilfiger, we still get our cotton from Massa. We still go and we get, you know, understand, whatever it is that we need from somebody else. You know what I mean? And then at the same time, where would we get our food from? We'd get it from them. You know what I'm saying? And then what do we do today? We work, the vast majority of us work check to check. We get our food from them, our utilities from them. So slavery never changed. It just became sophisticated. Like when you go and you look at the definition of liberty, like I don't know if y'all familiar with one of the founding fathers, like Thomas Paine. He wrote a little booklet, a little pamphlet called Common Sense. And inside Common Sense, you know what I'm saying, these are the same people who said, give me liberty or give me death. Well, liberty is being free from foreign rulership. You know what I'm saying? So now, it's when have black or Hispanics been free from foreign rulership? I mean, really not since 1492, since Columbus sailed the ocean blue. You know what I'm saying? Since then, we have been being occupied by an enemy. Anybody in the room, I'll invite y'all on stage. If y'all have a question, you could go ahead and vocalize it. Right now, we're doing a class on Psalms 83, how they've taken crafty counsel against us. And we're talking about the prison industrial complex and how they utilized, you know what I'm saying, all the drug trade, trafficking, the laws, so on and so forth, to be able to imprison us for life or more through the laws that they made. You know what I'm saying? Through all these different policies. And we fell for the okie doke. And now there's over 2 million black and Hispanic men in the prison system right now. So I'm going to continue reading this article. There are approximately 2 million inmates in state, federal, and private prisons throughout the country, according to California Prison Focus. No other society in human history has imprisoned so many of its own citizens. So like if you were to go and you were to look up like even the Persian Empire, if you were to go look up, you know what I'm saying, ancient Egypt, if you were to go and look up any even ancient civilization, including Rome, none of them had a prison population that's as large and as vast as America. I'm going to continue reading. The figures show that the United States has locked up more people than any other country. 500,000 more than China, which has a population 5 times greater than the U.S. Now think about how sick this is, right? So China, all these other countries have populations 5 times more of America. There's over 2 million in the prison system right now, mainly black and Hispanics, and we make up 12% the population. How does a people who makes up 12% of the population be a part of the largest prison population ever in human history? It's because, once again, they said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. They consult against us, you understand, with one consent. They take crafty counsel. This was crafty counsel that they had. You understand? I'm going to keep reading on now. So now statistics reveal that the United States holds 25% of the world's prison population, but only 5% of the world's people. Like, statistically, I need y'all to feel the gravity of that statement. From less than 300,000 inmates in 1972, the jail population grew to 2 million by the year 2000. Now let me ask y'all something. Let me just see if anybody knows a little bit of history. What was going on in 1972 that the prison population would have been up to 300,000? Anybody want to take a guess?
Was it the influx of was it when drugs started getting to the neighborhoods or no?
Hey man, listen, if we were in class live right now, brother, I would say give you a hand. That's exactly what it was. It was the influx of drugs, because in 1969, you understand, not only did the prophets come back into the earth, you understand, but the white man went to the moon and black and Hispanics got on heroin. You understand? Like we went and got on heroin in 1969. So then what happened? They went and started locking us up. So in 1972, when you look at the prison population being 300,000, that was us from the heroin trade. Like we go and we try to glorify people like what the hell was his name in American Gangster? Frank Lucas. You know what I'm saying? But you gotta understand, like that's, we look at that like that's gangster. Frank Lucas wasn't the real gangster. Like the military was, that was helping him bring all of this in. Like those is the real gangsters, because ain't none of them really do time. You know what I mean? Oliver North ain't do no time. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the whole crack cocaine trade, the Iran-Contra, and show that since the 70s, this has been an okie doke. You know what I'm saying? Like since the 70s, this is exactly what they've done to us. You know what I'm saying? So hold on. Let me see. I'm going to backtrack. I'm going to be jumping back and forth, right, between I'm going to be jumping back and forth between a couple of articles here. And it's extremely important for y'all to be able to understand this information. So we're going to go back to around that time. We're going to go back into the 70s. Now, any of y'all familiar with the name John Ehrlichman?
Lie.
All right. John Ehrlichman was inside of the presidential cabinet. And You know what I'm saying? This is one of the things that he had said, right? The war on drugs was actually a political tool to crush leftist protesters and black people. A former Nixon White House advisor admitted it in decades-old interview published Tuesday. So because of the Freedom of Information Act, right, every 20 years they have to release certain files. So John Ehrlichman, who served as President Richard Nixon's domestic chief, said he laid bare the sinister use of his boss' controversial policy in a 1994 interview with journalist Dan Baum that the writer revisited in a new article, right? So he says the war on drugs was really a war on black people. So now this is a direct quote from him. He says, you want to know what it really was all about? Ehrlichman, who died in 1999, said in the interview after Baum asked him about Nixon's harsh anti-drug policy. The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? Ehrlichman continued. We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. So now when you go back, right, and you start to look at Nancy Reagan and you start to look at all this, just say no. All of these drugs and influx of them inside of our community was literally just made to disrupt our social system, to be able to throw us in jail. So they went and started flooding the ghetto with drugs just so that this way they would be able to arrest us and start filling the prison system. And then the prison population grew to 300,000 by 1972. So, for example, I'm going to continue reading on just to give you, let me see here. This is a frightening confirmation of what many of us have been saying for years, that this was a real attempt by the government to demonize and criminalize a race of people. You understand? So now in 1971, Nixon labeled drug abuse public enemy number one and signed the Comprehensive Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act, putting into place several new laws that crack down on drug users. He also created the Drug Enforcement Administration. The DEA was literally created just to destroy black and Hispanics, man. So now, let me see here. So now we're going to fast forward a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And what I want to do is I want to just explain to you what goes on with this prison industrial complex, all these different things, you know what I'm saying? So the first they started off with heroin. They made drugs, you know what I'm saying, public enemy number one. Now when you fast forward and you go into the 80s, you understand, cocaine starts coming in. After cocaine starts coming in, crack starts coming in. All right, so I'm going to continue reading. Now, any of y'all familiar with the show Snowfall?
Kind of vaguely.
If y'all watch Snowfall, right, what you're going to see is a lot of that was based on real life. Like a lot of that was based on things that had actually started to transpire here inside of America, including that the CIA was the one that was bringing in all the cocaine and flooding the ghetto, right? So after all the cocaine starts coming inside the ghetto, crack gets engineered. It gets spread through, territorial expansion with all the drugs trades, mainly starting in the West Coast, the Bloods, the Crips, Tookie Williams, all them. They started building sets and setting up shop in Denver, the Midwest, you know what I'm saying, so on and so forth. And all of this was literally an okie doke. So the overview is that what America did was the CIA is responsible for the destabilization of governments. So there was like a Cold War that was going on. So they would go down into Nicaragua because they wanted to destroy any evidence of communism because they controlled democracy. So anybody who was on the communist side was allied with Russia and America did not have control of. So they set up a guerrilla army known as the Contras. And what America would do is America would supply them with weapons. And in return, throughout, that country, they would supply them with cocaine. America would then take that coke and then he would go and sell it to your freeway Rick Rosses. You know what I'm saying? They would sell it to the drug cartels, they would sell it to the gangs, and then they would take that money. And then now this is why it was called the Iran-Contra scandal, because then they utilized that money now to go and fund larger weapons projects, so that this way they could just go win wars, advance themselves. This is the Iran-Contra scandal. During the process of all of this, this is when the boom starts to come in with the prison system and the privatization of the prison system, as to what we read earlier, that for them it was like a pot of gold. They started making all of this money. And that's because they also started creating harsher sentencing for drug usage. And then who was affected by that harsher sentencing? It was us. It was black and Hispanics. Where they started making a 3-strike law. That if you got arrested and caught with, you know what I'm saying, even like let's say before we get to your 3rd strike, if you got caught with crack cocaine, you did a minimum mandatory sentence of 10 to 15 years fed time with no shot of parole. And then while you're there, what do they have you doing? Sewing military uniforms. You know what I'm saying? Working for all these different companies that we're going to get into. America's economy, Reaganomics, was based off of drugs. You understand? It was based off of crack cocaine, heroin, cocaine, and the imprisonment of black and Hispanics to the tune of more than of 2 million. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into, I'm going to start here. Boom. More than 18 years have passed since the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Gary Webb stunned the world with his Dark Alliance newspaper series investigating the connection between the CIA, a crack cocaine explosion in predominantly African-American neighborhoods in South Los Angeles, and the Nicaraguan Contra fighters. So this was the investigative reporter that blew the lid off of all this. That before this, everybody just thought we were conspiracy theorists. But before John Ehrlichman said that the war on drugs was a war on black and Hispanics, when we've been saying this since 1969, everybody thought that this was just a conspiracy theory. So scandalous implications that outraged LA's black community severely damaged the intelligence agency's reputation and launched a number of federal investigation. Webb's investigation was published in the summer of 1996 in the San Jose Mercury News. In it, he reported that a drug ring that sold millions of dollars worth of cocaine in Los Angeles was funneling its profits into the CIA's army in Nicaragua, known as the Contras. After the Associated Press reported on those connections in 1985, for example, more than a decade before Webb, then Senator John Kerry, sound familiar? John Kerry ran for president. This is how you know all these people are Confederate against thee. Launched a congressional investigation. In 1989, Kerry's release of a detailed report claiming that not only was there considerable evidence linking the Contra effort to trafficking of drugs and weapons, but that the U.S. government knew about it. And then just remember that while all this is going on and black folks were crying about you know what I'm saying, George Bush Sr. dying. George Bush Sr. was the head of the CIA during that time period. All right. So according to the report, many of the pilots were ferrying weapons and supplies south for the CIA and were known having backgrounds in drug trafficking. Kerry's investigation cited that SETCO Aviation and the company that the U.S. had contracted to handle many of the flights as an example of the CIA complicity in the drug trade. According to 1983 Customs Services report, SETCO was headed to Juan Ramona Mata Baltareros, Class 1 DEA violator. So now you start to see that these people were already on the DEA's watch list. These people got hired by the CIA because they had familiar backgrounds in drug trafficking and smuggling, and they set up the drug routes. You know what I'm saying? Like Commanding General YAHANNA said, no one can run a successful drug operation, you understand, without the aid of law enforcement. It is the aid of law enforcement as to why Pablo Escobar was able to rise to his fame and so on and so forth. Because the CIA allows this. All right. 2 years before the Iran-Contra scandal would begin to bubble up in the Reagan White House, pilot William Robert Tosh, Pum Lee, revealed to the Senator Gary Hart that planes would routinely transport cocaine back to the U.S. after dropping off the Nicaraguan rebels. Plum Lee has since spoken in detail about the flights in the media reviews. He flew weapons into Latin America for decades for the CIA. But when the Contra Revolution took off in the 1980s, Plumlee said that he continued to transport arms south for the spy agency and bring cocaine back with him, with the blessings of the U.S. government. Now, just to paint the picture here, right? So now that the CIA has determined that they were going to bring in all the different drugs, you know what I'm saying? Now that they created the drug routes, now that they used, you know what I'm saying, professional drug smugglers to come through and to set all of this up, right? Hold on one second. Cap, I'm trying to bring you up. I'm working right now on Club Deck, so it might be a little delayed. All right. So I pressed invite up, Cap. So now.
Yeah, I'm up.
Okay, Most High Christ. It's always a little bit delayed on mine. You have anything you want to bring up, Cap? Salaki?
No, check your phone message.
Okay, Kadwan Khan. Okay, Kadwan Khan. So now, so what you start to see now is this is where the crafty council starts to come in. All right, this is where they started to fuel the privatization of the prison system. So this is where you start to really see the epitome of Psalms 83. And it's important for us to know this about how they destroyed us, how all these things, you understand, started to transpire. So he says, I knew that these laws were a mistake when we were writing them, says Eric Sterling, who was counsel to the U.S. House of Judiciary Committee in the 1980s and a key contributor to the passage of mandatory minimum sentencing laws in the documentary. In 1980, there were roughly 40,000 drug offenders in the U.S. prisons, according to research from the Sentencing Project, a prison sentencing reform group. By 2011, the number of drug offenders serving prison sentences ballooned to more than 500,000, most of whom are not high-level operators and are without prior criminal records. That means that the number one reason for people to be locked up is drug offenses. And once again, this is why when you go and you listen, you understand, to everything that the generals have been bringing out, you can't have Disney World without crime. Like, our crime is what fuels American economy. And if we wanted to cripple America, all we have to do is stop selling drugs. There's morality can defeat this evil empire. Literally. You understand? All we have to do is change our morals. That's real revolution. I talked to somebody, he said, oh man, I had to pay the rent. Like, you thought you was the only one with bills? So everybody in the neighborhood, everybody on the block had to die because you had to pay rent. You understand? So to continue reading, it says, there is no question that there are tens of thousands of black people in prison serving sentences that are decades excessive. Sterling says, their families have been destroyed because of laws I played a central role in writing. The height of the drug war in the 1980s also saw the beginning of the militarized of local law enforcement, the tentacles of which are seen to this day mostly in Ferguson, Missouri. And I don't know if y'all were in the room earlier, but we were talking about how they came and they ordered, it was the National Black Caucus that passed for militarized weapons to be used against Ferguson, man. And this is why politics can't save us either. But the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High can. So the 1986 Act initiated the federal criminal law distinction between cocaine base and other forms of cocaine. The threshold triggered the 10-year penalty, 5 kilograms of powder cocaine and 50 grams of cocaine base. Created the 100 to 1 quantity ratio discussed at various points in this report. The identical ratio is reflected in the 5-year mandatory minimum threshold as well. 500 grams of powder cocaine and 5 grams of cocaine base both trigger the 5-year penalty. So what you start to see is these mandatory sentencings, you understand, went to us that they would give us damn near over a decade, and then in comes the privatization of the prison system. You know what I'm saying? And then also the same thing, man, when they do the 3-strike law. So now you got brothers, which I'm going to read the story later. You have brothers that, you know what I'm saying, they might have had 2 strikes and then they stole a pair of socks and went away for life. All right. So this was the entire, you know what I'm saying, okey doke that we fell for from Nixon to Reagan all the way up to the Clinton administration that we're still suffering at the other end of right now. This was the crafty council when they said come and let them cut us off from being a nation. All right. So now the prison privatization boom began in the 1980s under the governments of Ronald Reagan and Bush Sr., but reached its heights in 1990 under Bill Clinton, when Wall Street stocks were selling like hotcakes. Clinton's program for cutting the federal workforce resulted in the Justice Department's contracting of private prison corporations for the incarceration of undocumented workers and high security inmates. So you could see, like, this is something that they've been doing, you know what I'm saying, long before the ICE cages. This is something that they've been doing towards black and Hispanics for decades. None of this is new. Every decade they just reinvent a new way to be able to push this forward. Private prisons are the biggest business in the prison industry complex, and about 18 corporations guard 10,000 prisoners in 27 states. So we were talking earlier about how if they don't work, they get put in isolation cells. They get paid as little as 25 cents an hour, and that the majority of them are black and Hispanics, and that this prison system population inside of America, you understand, not only takes up 25% of the world's prison population, but once again, America only holds 5% of the world's population, and we're only 12% of population in America. So really feel those numbers for a minute. 25% of the world's entire prison population is here in America. And 12% of the population is black and Hispanics. But we make up the majority of the prison inside of America, of the prisoners inside of America. So now I'm going to continue reading. So now it says, what has happened over the last 10 years? Why are there so many prisoners? The private contracting of prisoners for work fosters incentive to lock people up. This is why, like, you ever notice, like how is it that there's more police in the hood? However, there's more police inside the hood, and there's more crime in the same place that there's police. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I get off the train over in at Lexington, right? Whenever I'm inside of Harlem, I get off the train, and on the corner of 125th Street in Lexington is a major dope spot. Like, they're moving day and night. And on that same corner, you have NYPD cameras on every single corner. And then on top of every single corner, there's NYPD floodlights. And then sometimes right along the fence, they park a giant, it almost looks like a Winnebago with NYPD on it. It's like a mini police station. You mean to tell me that we all know that dope's being moved there, but the police can't stop it? Because they don't want to stop crime. Because if you stop crime, you stop the profits. This is why y'all ever hear that police officers have a quota? Y'all can chime in if you want. You know what I'm saying? It's not directly, you know what I'm saying, rhetorical. But point being is they have a quota because if the state doesn't fill the prisons, then the prisons are allowed to sue the state and they get fined. So the governor puts pressure on the mayor. The mayor is literally like the boss of the police chief, who then sends that pressure all the way down for them to continue to make, you understand, a certain amount of collars. But you can't stop the direct drug trade because then you stop the arrest. If you stop the arrest, then now you start to end the labor. So the private contracting of prisoners for work fosters incentive to lock people up. Prisons depend on this income. Corporate stockholders who make money off of prisoners lobby for longer sentences in order to expand their workforce. The system feeds itself, says a study by the Progressive Labor Party, which accuses the prison industry of being an imitation of Nazi Germany with respect to forced labor and concentration camps, which, I mean, you're literally going to start to see with these these damn near internment camps that they have Hispanics in because of the ICE agents. The prison industrial complex is one of the fastest growing industries in the United States. Its investors are on Wall Street. This multi-million-dollar industry has its own trade exhibitions, conventions, websites, and mail-order internet catalogs. It also has direct advertising campaigns, architecture companies, construction companies, investment houses on Wall Street, plumbing supply companies, food supply, armed security, and padded cells in large variety of colors. According to the Left Business Observer, the federal prison industry produces 100% of all, hear this good, 100%, that means every single one, of all military helmets, ammunition belts, bulletproof vests, ID tags, shirts, pants, tents, bags, and canteens, along with war supplies. Prison workers supply 98% of the entire market for equipment assembly services, 93% of paints and paintbrushes, 92% of stove assembly, 46% of body armor, 36% of home supplies, 30% of headphones, microphones, speakers, Jesus Christ, and 21% of office furniture, airplane parts, medical supplies, and much more. Prisoners are even, oh, Jesus Christ, I forgot about this one. Prisoners are even raising seeing eye dogs for blind people. You understand? Because slavery was only ratified and eliminated provided that you do not commit a crime. If you commit a crime, then now you are able to be forced back into slave labor. Like I gave the example earlier for those who weren't here. That's what that movie Life was. That movie Life was Reconstruction in the South, and how they you understand, still had brothers, chopping rocks on the side of the road, you know what I'm saying, still working on the plantations. The only difference is now they were wearing a pinstripe uniform. So now, who is investing? At least 37 states have legalized the contracting of prison labor by private corporations that mount their operation inside state prisons. The list of such companies contains the cream of U.S. corporate society. IBM, for those of you who don't know, that's International Business Machine. Boeing, Motorola, Microsoft, AT&T Wireless, Texas Instrument, Dell, Compaq, Honeywell, Hewlett-Packard, Nortel, LT Lucent Technologies, 3Com, Intel, Northern Telecom, TWA, Nordstrom's, Revlon, Macy's, Pierre Cardin, Target stores, and many more. All of these businesses are excited about the economic boom generated by prison labor. Just between 1980 and 1994, profits went up from $392 million to $1.31 billion. You understand? And it's easy to do that because, the majority of your money when you own a business goes towards payroll. You understand? Like if not a large portion of it. I'm talking about when it comes down to percents and dividends to, where your money goes. So now imagine if you don't have to pay anybody anything. And what's crazy is you can be a black or Hispanic, grow up in poverty, go join a gang because of brotherhood, or looking for a sense of brotherhood. And then now you start selling drugs that the United States government brought inside of our ghettos. They then turn around, lock us up, and then while you're there, you work labor for 10 years of a mandatory minimum sentence, and then you work for 25 cents an hour or maybe $1 a day at times. You get out of jail, and now they won't hire you because you're a felon. Because if they hire you, they're going to have to pay you $15 an hour, $18 an hour, $20 an hour. So they would rather hire you as a prisoner because now all they got to do is pay you $1 a day. Do you know how much money they're saving just off payroll alone? And here's something else. If you don't know how business contracts work, right? Like if you're a company, right? For example, like they said they have construction companies. If you work for a construction company, and what happens is that they bid on a job. And a part of bidding on the job is, one, they cover all the supplies. So let's say you're an electrician. You're covering all the electrical supplies. So you've calculated the amount of outlets you need, receptacles, switches, lights, and all of this falls under the, the buyer. They have to buy all the supplies. So now you then have to cover the man hours. So you have different ranks, you know what I'm saying, inside your company. You have to pay your project managers X amount, your foremans, your sub-foremans. But now once you get into the mechanic and the apprentice rate, it might be in your contract that you have to pay the apprentices $25 an hour. That's what you lobbied for inside your contract for, let's say 10,000 hours, because that's how long they claim that it's going to take to complete the you know what I'm saying, the task. So now, let's say you're hiring people at $15 an hour. This means for 10,000 hours, for each one of those apprentices that they hire, they're getting paid $10 an hour for 40 hours a week or more off of you. So they're making money off of you. Now imagine if all they had to pay you was 25 cents an hour. How much more those profit margins go up. And this is the okie doke that we fell for. You know what I'm saying? You end up selling drugs for 15 years in the damn crack game. Then you get arrested on a conspiracy charge and do 16 years Fed time. Creating every single uniform for the military, working at McDonald's. And if you want to strike or protest, they'll just throw you in solitary confinement. Because our oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of, man. So once again, like, this entire topic has been surrounded around Psalms 83 that we read earlier when we first came in. And then after this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to Isaiah the 14th chapter just to show you that all of this, you know what I'm saying, like is our oppressor's nature. You know what I'm saying? This crafty counsel that they set up over us. Remember, he is the most subtle beast of the field who has come and devoured us. So I'm going to keep reading a little bit more from this article, all right? So now, boom, boom, boom. I just want to make sure that I covered everything over here. So, yeah, I don't want to skip that part either. Ooh-wee. All right, so boom. So the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act signed by President Clinton in 1994, a piece of legislation which led to more black men being incarcerated than we had seen in all of America's dark history, which is saying a lot. But all Bill Clinton had to do was go play the saxophone, and now he black, right? All he had to do was get a little head in the Oval Office, and now everybody loves him. Now he's the coolest president on the planet, when meanwhile, he's the reason for the destruction of our community. You know what I'm saying? He's the reason a lot of us grew up without fathers. Like these people have been monsters to us. You understand? All of this has been crafty counsel. So now, let me start. Boom. Or the Telecommunications Act of 1996, which nearly gutted black media ownership by removing caps on corporate media ownership. The Clinton era was marked by a reality of setback for African Americans that are too often understated, that are best summed up by Michelle Alexander, the author of the bestseller, The New Jim Crow. If anybody wants to read that book, it's an excellent book that talks about everything we're speaking on now. How this became a new version of Jim Crow and sharecropping inside the United States. If anyone doubts that the mainstream media fails to tell the truth about our political system and its true winners and losers, the spectacle of large majorities of black folks supporting Hillary Clinton in the primary races ought to be proof enough. I can't believe Hillary would be coasting into the primaries with her current margin of black support if most people had known how much damage the Clintons have done. The millions of families that were destroyed the last time they were in the White House thanks to their boastful embrace of the mass incarceration machine and their total capitulation of the right-wing narrative on race, crime, welfare, and taxes. There's so much more to say on this topic, and it's a shame that people aren't saying it. I think it's time we have that conversation, says Michelle Alexander. Under former President Bill Clinton's administration, the number of incarcerated rose dramatically, the increase primarily being composed of young black males. Because remember, Hillary Clinton was the same one who called us super predators. According to the Los Angeles Times, during Clinton's 8-year tenure, the total population of federal and state prisons combined rose by 673,000 inmates. More than during Reagan's 2 terms. As I wrote in one of the more popular pieces on incarceration, the black male incarceration problem is real and it's catastrophic. There are currently more African American men incarcerated in the U.S. than total prison populations in India, Argentina, Canada, Lebanon, Japan, Germany, Finland, Israel, and England combined. So that means if you take all the prisons from each one of those countries that I just named and you added them up, it wouldn't put a dent in the American prison population. India alone is a country of 1.2 billion people. The country only has a total of 380,000 prisoners. And we had 300,000 just inside 1972 alone because of the heroin the U.S. government brought in that we read about earlier. Recently, Bill Clinton admitted regret, he ain't have no regret, for his part in the incarceration increase, stating the president spoke a long time and a very well on criminal justice reform. But I just want to say a few words about it because I signed a bill that made the problem worse and I want to admit it. So now, this is the same Cat Sterling that they were talking about earlier, that they signed those bills that ended up destroying us, all right? These bills destroyed us to such a point, right, where I want to read one more story to you before I get back into the scriptures. So just to show you, this is what, you understand, they did. So this is on July 15th, 1995, in the quiet Southern California in Southern of California, a 33-year-old black man named Curtis Wilkerson got up from a booth at McDonald's, walked to a nearby mall, and within the space of 2 hours turned himself to the unluckiest man on earth. I was supposed to be waiting there while my girlfriend was at the beauty salon, he says. So he waited and waited. After a while, he paged her. She was like, I need another hour, he says. So I was like, baby, I'm going to the mall. Having grown up with no father and a mother, Wilkinson, who says he still boasts a Reggie Miller jumper, began to spend more time on the street. After his mother died when he was 16, he fell in with a bad crowd, and in 1981 served as a lookout in a series of robberies. He was quickly caught and sentenced to 6 years in prison. After he got out, he found work as a forklift operator and distanced himself from his old life. But that day in the mall, something came over him. He wandered from store to store, brought a few things, still shaking his head about his girlfriend's hair appointment. After a while, he drifted into a department store called Mervyn's, your typical chain store full of mannequins and dress racks. They're out of business today. Suddenly, a pair of socks caught his eye. He grabbed them and slipped them into the shopping bag. What kind of socks were they that were worth taking all the risk? He says they were $1 million socks with gold on them, he says, now laughing almost uncontrollably as he tells the story 18 years later from a telephone and correctional facility in California. Really, they were that special? He said, no, they were ordinary socks, he said, not knowing whether to laugh or to cry. He said they didn't even have stripes. Wilkerson never made it out of the store. At the exit, he was, shall we say, overenthusiastically apprehended by two security officers. They took him to the store security office where guards started to argue over whether or not to call the police. One guard wanted to let him pay for the socks and go, but the other guard was more hard-ass and called the cops, having no idea that he was about to write himself in part of one of the most absurd scripts in Southern California's history. So now, thanks to the brand new tough on crime state law, Wilkinson would soon be sentenced to life in prison for stealing a pair of socks that were worth $2.50. Y'all hear that good? This brother went to life in jail for stealing $2.50 socks because of these laws that they wrote, because of the 3-strike law, because of all these different acts that, God forbid, black or Hispanics could reform themselves. You understand? Like God forbid we can turn around and change our lives, that a pair of socks was worth more than his life.
God, that's the curses.
You understand? And this is the monster, you understand, who's ruling over us right now. So he says, no, sir, I was not expecting that one. He who now laughing darkly because Wilkerson has had 2 prior convictions, both dating back to 1981. The shoplifting charge counted as a 3rd strike against him. he was sentenced to 25 to life, meaning that his first chance for parole hearing would be in 25 years. That means minimum mandatory sentencing of 25 years just for stealing a pair of socks. The state also fined him $2,500 in restitution for the stolen socks. He works that off by putting in 4 to 5 hours a day in the prison cafeteria, which he gets paid $20 a month, which the state takes $11, meaning that this brother only gets paid $9 a month for working 5 hours a day. At this rate, he will be in his 90s before he's paid the state back for that one pair of socks. Y'all hear that? As for the one big question, does he wish he could go back in time? You understand? Which once again, the story just gets sadder. You know what I'm saying? But like this is once again why our oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks about. So in essence, what you're seeing here is that we legitly fell for the okie doke just because, you understand, we think we got to pay rent. When meanwhile, the number one drug dealers on the planet is our oppressor. The number one drug dealers on the planet is the so-called white man. Like once again, the CIA was responsible for bringing crack cocaine into the ghetto. You know what I'm saying? Like where they turn around, bring all so just to paint the picture here. They bring heroin in the late 60s and 70s. Then they create a war on drugs. And they did this because the war on drugs was really a war on blacks. That's what John Ehrlichman says. Now the prison population jumps to 300,000. When the heroin doesn't kill us off, they start bringing in the cocaine. All right. Now they start policing us further. They make minimum mandatory sentencing of 10 to 15 year fed times and simultaneously privatizing the prison system to be able to get cheaper labor out of us, and then creating a 3-strike law as they continue to police us, that now you got over 2 million slaves in the prison system right now that are black and Hispanics. We fell for the okie doke. This is the definition of them taking crafty counsel against us, and it's because we don't really understand who our oppressor is. Because we're so you understand, caught up on the idea and notion that Lucifer is a fallen angel, when I'm gonna show you today that Lucifer is the so-called white man. You understand? So if we could, Rakab, you with me? I know Kingdom's at the slavery.
God, I'm here. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, Most High in Christ. So let's go ahead and let's go to Isaiah, the 14th chapter.
You want me to start at verse 12?
Okay, we'll start at verse 12, then we're going to drop down because I want to get the complete context on this, just to show you that this is not talking about a fallen angel. And it's a shame to even believe in fallen angels, and I'm going to tell you why for this notion. Because there's a handful of things that happen here, right? First, what ends up happening is we say, well, if angels sin, how the hell could we, you understand, keep the law, statutes, and commandments? We ain't angels. Even they fell. Two, what happens is that instead of us, you understand, having the courage to stand up to our oppressor, instead of realizing that this is the real devil that's in the earth, we start sitting there looking for some invisible force that has harmed us. You understand? Like when you decide to turn around and just blame everything on some angel, how do you fight him? How do you combat him? But our people are so afraid to just realize that our oppressor is our real enemy. He's the real adversary. He's the one who destroyed our family structure. He's the one who brings the drugs into the ghetto. That we have to look for some invisible force instead of just saying, nah, this is the devil right here. So if you could, Ak, if you could read, let's start at verse 12.
Cause this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 14 and verse 12. It says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?"
You understand? So now what you start to see here is that everybody reads this, or the vast majority of people, especially because of the Christian church, reads this and it's so poetic. But they sit here and read this and think that this is a fallen angel from the sky, when we're going to find out if that's true or not. Read on.
Verse 13, it says, "For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north.
Now, it still sounds like a fallen angel, Captain Katas. I don't know if you know what the hell you're talking about. Well, let's find out. Let's keep reading. Good.
God, this is verse 14. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High.
Go ahead.
Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit.
Go ahead.
They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made
Is this the what?
Is this the man?
Is this the what?
The man?
The fallen angel?
The man.
No, this is the man. Now that we've read all that, let's get proper context, all right? First thing that we're going to see here is that this is talking about a man. This is not talking about a fallen angel. And now I could give you the entire breakdown, you know what I'm saying, which I'm going to. But first I want to start in the beginning of the chapter. This is extremely important. Don't just stop where somebody teaches you. Read the beginning of the chapter in order to get the context about what it is that we're reading here. So if you could, let's drop down to verse 1 and let's start in the bottom, and we're going to find out who this man is that this chapter is speaking about. If you could, Baba Kasha, start at verse 1.
God, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 1. It reads, For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob.
So now what you see here is that the Lord always has mercy on Jacob, and he's yet going to choose Israel. So what we're talking about here is mercy and redemption for the house of Israel, for the house of Jacob, which are the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians of Negro or Indian descent on their father's side. And it starts to talk about the strangers. Strangers in this context is the other nations. Read on.
Verse 2, And the people shall take them and bring them to their place.
Good.
And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids.
So stop right there. So now these same strangers are going to be servants and handmaids. Why? Because this is a changing of the guard. This is the salvation that's promised to Israel. You understand that our oppressors aren't going to rule over us anymore, but we will rule over them. Go ahead.
And they shall take they shall take them captives, whose captives they were. And they shall rule over their oppressors.
You understand? And this is something that was promised unto us. You understand that we will rule over our oppressors. So what we're starting to see here is that somebody was on the bottom and is going to rise up. That's Israel. And now there's somebody else who's going to be brought down to a lower state because they were above us. They were the head. You understand? They lifted themselves up. Now they're being brought down to a low condition. And we're going to rule over them that oppressed us. Read on.
And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and wherein thou, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve.
You understand why? Because when the Lord put these curses on us, he said we would go into the way of the heathen and we would find no rest there. But now the Lord's bringing us back into our rest. Continue.
That thou shalt take up this proverb.
This what?
This proverb.
Go ahead.
That thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon.
Against who?
The king of Babylon.
So now who are we talking about in this chapter moving forward?
The king of Babylon.
The king of Babylon, the ruling class of Babylon, the oppressor who used to rule over us. That's who we're talking about in this chapter. Read on.
And say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased.
Meaning somebody is in a high state, a delicious state, this king of Babylon. And how is he going to be brought down to the ground? How are they going to be stopped? How are they going to be destroyed? Because they're so powerful, right? So now this is all talking about the king of Babylon. And then it starts to reiterate itself right around verse 12. So now that we know that, let's read the proverb that was spoken about the king of Babylon. Drop down to verse 12 for me, Baba Kasha.
God. This is verse 12.
Yes.
How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer?
Stop right there. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? You know what this sounds like? How hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. Because Lucifer is just the one who shines. You understand? Our oppressor is the one who is shining right now. Heaven is a high estate. Who's going to bring him down? How is this changing of the guard going to happen? How is Israel going to be had mercy on, and this golden city, this oppressor, Lucifer, cease, that the Lord could have mercy again on Jacob, again on Israel? How are we going to have our oppressor serve us, who's oppressing us right now? We're going to read about it right now. Continue.
How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?
You understand now? Who is going to bring this oppressor down? You understand? Think about America right now. America is a superpower with aerial superiority since the 1940s, since World War II. You understand? Who is like this beast? Who's able to make war with him? So when you start to see, you understand, this monster here, that's what people think, because he's weakened every single nation on the planet. Go and look at how he destabilized the Middle East. Go and look at any country and how they were before, you understand, he entered in there. I seen a meme the other day where it was Japan, you know what I'm saying, before the white man, and they were samurais, you know what I'm saying. Then they show the mushroom cloud from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and then right after that they show some goofy Asian wearing Hello Kitty. You know what I'm saying that America gonna bomb them back into the Stone Land, meaning like these people, but prior to Western influence, they weren't wearing suits and ties and all these other things, or being even close to their philosophy. They had their own way of life, their own honor. These people weaken every nation that they get involved with. Read on. No sweat. We're verse 13.
Okay, con. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north.
So now what you see here is that this is what he says. He wants to be above, you understand, the stars of God. Israel is the stars of God. You understand? He wants to exalt his throne above us. You understand? Now, you could use this figuratively, you could use this literally, but the point is that he wants to sit above Israel. And then he will sit on the mount of the congregation. The congregation is Israel in the sides of the north. You understand? We are in North America currently today. You understand? This is literally talking about our oppressor present day. Read on.
This is verse 14. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the high.
And this is what he tries to do, man. He tries to play God at every chance that he can. Go ahead.
Verse 15. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit.
Meaning that you were once in heaven. You were once in the heights. You understand? You were once living deliciously. But the Lord is going to bring you down into a low condition. That's what hell is. Hell is not some, you understand, alternate dimension that your soul, when it separates from your body, goes to, and then you get tortured there. No. Hell is being born black, Hispanic, or Native Indian in the ghettos of New York, in the ghettos of Camden, in the ghettos of Roxbury. You understand? In the ghettos around the world in America. It's being on the bottom of every socioeconomic ladder. It's 2 million, you understand, black men locked up inside the prison system right now as we speak, when the number one drug dealers are inside the White House, when Nancy Reagan is a trap queen and George Bush Sr. was the biggest drug dealer on the planet and everybody wanted to cry at his funeral. You understand? But they're going to be brought down to the pit. Like when you read in Jonah 2:2, when it says, because of his affliction, he cried out the belly of hell. Jonah didn't die. You understand? But being inside that fish was hell to him. You understand? Meaning the Lord put him in a hellish condition, an afflicted condition on earth. Well, this oppressor, who was so high, who did weaken everybody, who was so powerful, he's going to be brought down. Read on.
They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man?
Is this the what?
The man?
Now, who is this man, Kabad?
King of Babylon.
This is the king of Babylon. You understand? I would tell everybody get his brother a hand right now because you're paying attention. This is the man. This is the king of Babylon. This is the oppressor. You understand? Go ahead.
That made the earth to tremble,
And, go ahead. Finish it. Good.
that did shake kingdoms.
You understand? This is the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, and he did that by dropping nuclear bombs. You understand? Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He makes people tremble. He does that with Hellfire missiles. He does that with Scud missiles. He does that with every single one of his military firepower that he made, because the only blessing that Esau was given was with the sword. That's why y'all be online, y'all be watching a little clip. All of a sudden, the next one comes up, and it's a white boy strapping a Glock to a drone, and then shooting it off in the woods, because everything they see, they say, okay, this is great. Now, how can I kill someone with it? Because they are blessed with the sword. Read on.
That made the world as a wilderness.
Now, he made the world as a wilderness when he took the word of God out of it. You understand? Like you, when you remove the law, statutes, and commandments of the Lord, we are no better off than the animals, because all we're living is according to the flesh. We're just living according to our lust. We're just living according to our desires. But he's the one who changed the truth of the word of God into a lie, trying to say that the law, statutes, and commandments are done away with, that we don't have no conscience when we sell drugs to our brother. And then we end up getting locked up to the tune of $2 million and falling for that crafty counsel. Read on.
And destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners.
That what?
That opened not the house of his prisoners.
And we just read right now, you understand, like what the hell would Satan or Lucifer need to not open the house of his prisoners for? You understand? But notice everything we're talking about is things that transpire on earth. This is not talking about some interdimensional being. This is talking about the king of Babylon, the oppressor who needs to be ceased, who needs to be brought down to the ground, who doesn't open the house of his prisoners, as we just read about that brother doing life for $2.50 worth of socks. As we just read about the millions of incarcerated inside of America. He don't open the house of his prisoner. Read on.
All the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory.
Meaning, every single one of these nations, every single one of these people, you understand, they live deliciously because of America. That's why when you read inside Revelations, what do you find out about? You find out that the merchants are going to weep when Babylon falls. When this place burns, when America is the lake of fire, and they see the billows and clouds of smoke in the distance, because it's over now. You understand? All that time of you living deliciously at the expense of black and Hispanics is over. Read on, Baba Kasha.
God, all the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, every one in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch.
You understand? Meaning that the Lord is going to cast them out like it's nothing. You understand? All these people that you think are mighty and glorious and all that, all of them are going to be taken down. It's a small thing to the Most High. Good?
And as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with the sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet.
Keep reading.
Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned.
So what you're seeing is all these things are talking about how these are not going to be, you understand, like when this death comes, when this destruction comes, when this judgment comes, it's just throwing a body away. You understand? Like it's like we have a tradition in Israel of, like, when we talk about Sheol. And Sheol was an improper burial, or rather the proper burial for a sinner. Where if you were killed because you were an adulterer or an adulteress, your body was thrown in Sheol. Your carcass was just cast off. You get what I'm saying? Stones thrown on top of it, open grave, nobody cares about it, done deal. You understand? Or your body could just be burned. You know what I'm saying? You're not joined in burial. You're like it's a cremation is not a sin, but it's not Israel tradition. Our tradition is that when your loved one dies, you care for that body. You understand? Like we had a process of embalming with hyssop and all these different oils. You put a white linen cloth on it. You make sure you take care of that person, that loved one. You know what I'm saying? Some of our forefathers were transported, you know what I'm saying, back to the land, buried next to their spouse in the location they wanted to be. Why? Because you cared for your father's wishes. These people here, though, because of the wickedness that they did, we treat all of them like it's Sheol. Read on.
Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities.
So now this is still connected with how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer. This is not talking about fallen angels and his offspring. This is talking about the king of Babylon, the oppressor who rules over Israel, their descendants, all of them being destroyed for the sins that they committed against our people. And it takes it a step further. Read on.
For I will rise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and son and nephew, saith the Lord.
See, now this is also how you know that it's talking about an entire nation, because this is why they have a remnant. You understand? If you have a nephew, you have a brother. You understand? If you have a son and you have a nephew, that means they are cousins. This is family members. You understand? This is an entire nation. This is the oppressor ceasing, and now we begin to rule over him, because as we read in the beginning of the chapter, Israel, Jacob, this house, you understand, is who the Lord is going to have mercy on all over again. And why? Because of the iniquity of their fathers. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, that Sterling cat, Nixon, Reagan, Bill Clinton, all these cats got to pay for their hand in our destruction. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody going to skate with none of this. All right? So before I continue on, I can continue on with the lesson. I see there's like 48 people in the class right now. If any of you have an actual scriptural based question, I could start taking them now. So if you want to raise your hand, if you want to come on stage, if you have anything concerning the Bible, you know what I'm saying, you can go ahead, raise your hand, and then Lord willing, we'll be able to break it down for you.
Salakia, Cap. Something just hit me while we was going through this breakdown of Isaiah 14. Did you couple this with Revelations 12, or was that already part of the lesson?
Okay, Revelations 12. Yes, you can absolutely couple this with this. It's talking about all of those, you know what I'm saying, quote unquote European nations. That's actually what LaRon, you know what I'm saying, got cut on Clubhouse, because when he talked about salvation being for all nations, remember when you read Revelations 12, let's actually go there right now. Once again, if anybody else has a question, you know what I'm saying, y'all can go ahead, raise your hand. You know what I mean? Brothers, sisters, you know what I'm saying, whatever the case may be, y'all can come up on stage if you have any questions. If not, we'll just continue on. But if we go to Revelations 12, right? So what you have to see here is, let's start at, if you could, start at Revelations 12 and 9 for me, Baba Kasha.
Khan, this is the book of Revelation, chapter 12 and verse 9. It says, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
So now when you read this, it sounds like, once again, like this is talking about an actual angel, when, remember, the Bible is written in allegory. Not all of it, but you know what I'm saying, there is a large majority of it, especially Revelations, because Revelations is a vision. So this is a vision that you're seeing. This is a dreamlike state. So things are being told in allegory, meaning it's a true story told in a metaphorical fashion. And in this case, it's prophecy. Read on.
And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength.
And so now slow down. When does salvation come?
When the Messiah comes back.
Give me some more. Like what happened in the previous verse?
The whole world was deceived, and this quote unquote this devil, this old serpent, was cast out of the earth.
That's what you need right there. salvation doesn't come till the dragon is cast out. Meaning that salvation is being saved from something. Everybody treats salvation like it's this magic, mystical thing, when salvation is literally being saved from danger. Well, what's the danger? This dragon. Well, who is this dragon? So let's just to show you how this correlates with what you were saying, like in Isaiah. Let's drop down once again. If you want to understand the chapter, we have to drop down to the beginning. So let's read about the beginning of the chapter. So let's go to Revelations 12:1.
God, it's the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 1. It says, "And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars." And she
Slacky, I was doing something on there. Okay, so now what you see here is that this woman is Israel. The sun and the moon are synonymous with wisdom and knowledge. And upon her head is 12 stars. So what you're seeing here is those are the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And now remember what we were reading about inside of Isaiah. They wanted to sit above the stars. You understand? They want to rule over the congregation in the sides of the north. Israel is the Lord's stars. Go ahead.
And she, being a child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered.
Good.
And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head.
So now this is the dragon that gets cast out. This is the dragon that needs to be destroyed for salvation to be there. So now, is this a literal dragon?
Live.
You understand? So this is a metaphor for what? For nations. What nations? The nations that are oppressing Israel. Read on.
And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which is ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born.
So now this child, you understand, that's ready to be devoured. This is Christ, and this is more in particular the spirit of Christ that's trying to be born into the earth. So that this way, you understand, it can make way for the dragon to be destroyed. This is who's bringing us back to the Most High. You understand? And this dragon is trying to devour him, because this dragon is those nations. Now remember, this dragon, the salvation is declared when the dragon is brought down. You understand? So based on what you said, I'll go into this breakdown again. Let's go to Revelations 13, just because it goes a little bit more in depth into who this dragon is directly. And then if you have any other questions on it, we can come back to the chapter. But remember, like, you have to read the beginning to know that that dragon is not just talking about an angel. And even when it talks about angels, remember, angels are messengers. This dragon has messengers. They're called false prophets. All those that are in league and follow this dragon are his angels, are his followers, are his servants, are his messengers. So let's go to Revelations 13:1 to get a little bit more about this dragon.
God, this is Revelation chapter 13 and verse 1. It says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy."
So now what you see here is that this is the same beast, the same dragon inside Revelations 12. It's just going a little bit more into depth and a little bit more into detail with who that he is. The seas are synonymous with the world. So out of the world, you see something rising up. This is a nation, and it has 7 heads. Heads are synonymous with rulership as well as crowns, which letting you know that these are nations that came out of these, you understand, superpowers. And upon his head the name of blasphemy, meaning what? Lies against God, lies against the Most High. Read on.
"And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority."
So now the dragon is talking about Rome. This is who gave them, you understand, the great authority. This is what the 7 heads came out of. You understand? This is what this creature is. This is what this beast is, right? 7 heads, 10 horns. And this is synonymous directly with the vision that Daniel had. So when you go and you see the leopard was Alexander the Greek. And when you look at his feet, they were of a bear. That's the Medo-Persian Empire. And his mouth as the mouth of a lion. That was the Assyrian Empire, because in Daniel's vision, it was the Assyrian Empire. And then when that empire fell, then came the Persian Mede, the Medo-Persians. And then from there came the Greeks. And then from there came Rome. You understand? And now what happens is that this beast got all his power. Rome was that beast. And what came out of Rome? 7 heads came out of Rome. 7 superpowers. So you have Spain came out of Rome, Portugal, England, Germany, Italy, France, and Russia. Damn, I got it right that time. So those were the 7 superpowers. Now, outside of that came 10 common stock markets. So those horns that came out were the rest of those European empires. So Sweden, Switzerland, Denmark, all of those came out of Germany. Austria came out of Germany. Australia came out of England. America came out of England. So you start to see all these other providences that were around, which came out of those 7 superpowers, which came out of Rome. So this dragon is literally talking about the so-called white man, our oppressor. Who is he not the king of Babylon? I would say so. You understand? This is the king of present-day Babylon. This is who rules the earth. This is who rules the planet. Now, matter of fact, just to show you that this beast is synonymous with Revelations, the 14th chapter, if you could, read verse 4. No, you know what? I'm sorry. Start at 3.
And I saw, verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast.
So now what you see here is one of his heads, you understand, was wounded to death, and the wound was healed. So now this is talking about the Dark Ages, you understand? That's when he was wounded, and then it was healed during the Renaissance, and then that's when all the world started to wonder after this beast. Go ahead.
And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
You understand? Who's able to make war with him? This is the same one, remember, who made nations and kingdoms to tremble. Who did weaken the nations. Who's able to make war with him? Go ahead.
God. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies.
So now remember, like great things and blasphemies, like the Jews are white. You understand? This is a blasphemy. Jesus Christ is white. Caesar Borgia is Jesus Christ. Homosexuality is an alternative lifestyle. They're calling something cisgenders now. I was just in a room the other day. Like I'm so confused about this. That if you're a cis male, you're a natural born male. Like I don't halfway understand it. It confuses me. I don't know what the hell they talking about. But they're trying to redefine gender. All of that is blasphemy. You understand? All of that goes directly against the natural order of things that the Lord set up.
And they went even further to do this new thing where they got Christ depicted as transgender.
I ain't never seen that, brother. You understand? It was a white boy though.
God.
Yeah. Well, listen, man. That's not Christ. You understand? Jesus Christ is a black man. I understand what you're saying, but you know what I'm saying. Like they are naturally. You know what I'm saying? Sexual deviance. Lest there be any vain fornicators such as Esau. So I expect that from them. But that's definitely wild, Doc. You're right about that. But Baba Kasha, if you could read on, let's get just a little bit more of this.
God. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
So meaning 42 months is a short time. Like when you look at, you understand, like empires, like go look up like the Han and Song dynasty. Go look up real empires inside the world and how long that they ruled for it, how long they were in power for, in comparison to what you're seeing today with America. Like America is a very short stay. You understand? Even a lot of these kingdoms, it's really nothing. It's a couple of 100 years. It's not thousands. They're not making a dynasty. Read on.
And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven.
Man, and he did this with the angels, man. Listen, man, he paints them angels as Cupid, little white naked angel babies, because these cats are pedophiles. Remember, that's the Catholic Church doing. They ran the largest child molestation ring on the planet. He blasphemies heaven. He blasphemies, you understand, the tabernacle, his house, where he puts his name at. They continue to sell these lies. Go ahead.
And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them.
So now remember, this is exactly when it says that he did weaken the nations. You understand? He is the same one who rules over them. Who's going to bring him to the ground? Who can make war with him? Go ahead.
And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
So now, once again, I don't know if you need me to continue. You know what I'm saying? But when you get this breakdown, when you compare it synonymously with Revelations 12, and when you also compare it to Isaiah the 14th chapter, these are all talking about the same thing. The nation that rules over us, our oppressor, who's going to be destroyed, and without his destruction, salvation is not claimed, is not called. We don't have salvation without him being destroyed. We don't have salvation without the Lord once again having mercy on Jacob, once again having mercy over the house of Israel, and then us ruling over these strangers. Matter of fact, you know what? It is in here, but drop down to verse 9 if you could.
Con. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the
And
saints.
this is the opening three verses inside of Isaiah the 14th chapter, when it says that, you understand, we shall take those captives whose captives we were. So you can absolutely compare these, but you can't do it if you think that they're fallen angels. You can't do it if you think it's some interdimensional being that we can't see but we have to go to war with. That's not how this works.
Con. I want to do that because when you when you go back and listen to the lesson, and you understand, you come to the understanding that angels aren't just exclusive to these extraterrestrial beings. And you go ahead and break down that mindset that Lucifer was just this angel that turned into Satan. When you get away from those ideologies, it makes the Bible all the more clear, and just makes the world all the more clear of what's really going on.
Nah, it for sure absolutely does. Kabat, I'm gonna also make you a moderator. Rakab, Kingdom. I know you're at work. My joint's kind of frozen. I know Cap is on stage, but I can't see him on stage to make him a moderator. If you see anybody's hands raised, you can go ahead and bring them up. If anybody wants to raise their hand, come to the stage. If you have any questions, you understand, concerning the scriptures, we'll go ahead and answer them. This is I.S.U.P.K's Boston Wednesday class. And if y'all could also go ahead and subscribe on YouTube to I.S.U.P.K No Cowards. That's where our camp videos are going to be at, as well as more classes like this. And that's also where the video for this class will be at if you want to repeat it, want to replay it, all right?
Con.
Kabat, I know I'm asking for a lot from you, brother. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you rolling with me today. Putting some responsibility on your shoulders.
Nah. I felt it in my spirit. I was actually getting ready to go to the gym, and I was like, let me listen in to Cap's class. And then you asked if you need to read. I was like, you know what? What's the point of me going to the gym if I can't even
Hey,
sacrifice time for the Most High?
man, my man sacrificed the gym for that. Yo, let me tell you something. Big ups to you, brother. You know what I'm saying? So if once again, if anybody wants to raise their hand, come on stage. If you got a question concerning the topic, concerning the scripture, it doesn't have to be with what we talked about directly today. Could be, you know what I'm saying, could be anything. Could be on fallen angels, whatever the case may be. I'll give y'all a second if you want to raise your hand. And while y'all are doing that, I'm going to check Facebook and YouTube for any questions. So,
What was I finna say? There was a verse that popped into my head whenever you was talking about the industrial system, because basically, everything you broke down in the summary, they basically have to, they basically almost have to find a reason to lock you up so they don't get in trouble, and then they have to find a way to put you back in the world so they can find another reason to put you back in the system. It's like a cycle. And I was thinking about Zechariah 11:5 when it reads Salakia. Let me grab that right quick. Uh,
Go ahead. While you grab that, I'm gonna check these comments real quick.
Con. Uh-oh.
The brother Hawar on Facebook asked if Joseph was a pharaoh in Egypt. No, he was not a pharaoh in Egypt. He was a vizier or a vizier, depending on, you know what I'm saying, whichever pronunciation you want, meaning that would like be the equivalent to a vice president. Pharaoh would be number one, and this is like his main chief advisor, his number two over all the land. So he was not a pharaoh, he was Pharaoh's number two. That was his ranking inside of ancient Egypt.
I found a cap. It was whose possessors. This is Zechariah chapter 11 verse 5. It says whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty, and they that sell them say, "Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich," and their own shepherds pity them not. And I heard that verse came in my head when you was talking about how they'll basically find a reason to lock you up just to keep the cycle going, or just to keep money in their pockets. They don't really care what they're doing to you, or what they might be doing to the families at home, or what they might be doing to your life or anything. They just need a reason to keep the cycle going, to keep money flow.
No, you're absolutely right. And the same way that they turn around and say that, they say, and blessed be the Lord, and because I am rich, because these cats at the simultaneously, they think that they're doing the world a service because they're locking up drug dealers, they're locking up criminals, they're making the streets safer. And what makes it even worse is that police presence. It was our leaders who put the pressure on the governors to be able to bring more of them to the hood to continue to lock us up. Like, we fell for the okie doke on so many different levels. Like, it's disgusting. And then once again, you can't enter into a strong man's house unless you first bind him. So all these brothers running the streets, all these brothers, you know what I'm saying, being incarcerated in the prison system, dying in the drug trade, and so on and so forth. It's like it has completely destroyed our family structure to a point where I was in a room earlier having a discussion, and we were talking about gender roles. We were talking about how, you know what I'm saying, these gender roles cannot continue to be blurred, because the reason as to why, you understand, women can go be police or whatever the case may be is because men are supposed to be policing. Women aren't supposed to be going into the military. We're supposed to be offering that protection. So it's like if women have to pick up arms, our nation is destroyed. We are completely destroyed as a people. And that's the beauty of the truth, where I hear things from sisters at times where they say things along the lines of like, well, where do the women belong? Because it's like, you know, the operations that they see present is like camp, but camp is warfare. I don't want my wife, my daughter, my aunt, my, you know what I'm saying, any female, you understand, in my circle out there. You know what I'm saying? We've had death threats out there. You know what I'm saying? You got brothers who had to go to ground with the Kentucky 8. You know what I'm saying? Fighting an entire mob off. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would I put a woman in harm's way? They see the classes, they see the teaching, and they say, well, where do we fit in? But what they don't know is the amount of works that's going on behind the scenes. Like, they don't know every time we throw a cookout, the amount of work that goes into, you know, that the sisters put in behind the scenes to be able to cook and clean and shop and that a lot of these events would not be possible without their aid. Because, you know what I'm saying, there's operations that they'd be able to work in. I mean, the unleavened bread. The sisters cook all the unleavened bread for the Passover. You know what I'm saying? We got brothers who do the meat. Matter of fact, just so y'all know, for everybody who's listening in here, if you haven't already, book your tickets for the Passover. The Passover, April 15th, Cocoa Beach, Florida. We 2 hotels are booked up. We just rented 2 more hotels. You know what I'm saying? And there is a slew of brothers and sisters, you know what I'm saying, that's coming through. Matter of fact, I think Sister Chantel in the audience, this is going to be her first Passover with us. It's going to be a glorious occasion, and I'm definitely excited about it. But the point being is, these operations wouldn't be there. And the same way brothers have works is the same way sisters have to have works too. But our works are different. We can't confuse the gender roles. Like, you got sisters that cook meals for class. Like, every Thursday you come to class, there's trays of food. All the food for Purim. You know what I'm saying? That from the feast that we just had, it was the sisters who did that food. You know what I'm saying? And they get honor for that. You know what I'm saying? You got same thing, like they organize every Passover and they put together you know what I'm saying, not only a daycare, so that this way, you know what I'm saying, while we're in Florida, you know, some of the couples, brothers, sisters, you know what I'm saying, could go out, enjoy themselves. Some of the sisters could get together, brothers could get together, and they set up a little daycare program so you know your kids are safe. But these same sisters, you know what I'm saying, they'll set up a children's party. You know what I'm saying? Rent the event. You know what I'm saying? Some of the brothers will go there for security. And then, you know, they'll handle, you know, the laser tag, the bowling, you know, the cosmic bowling, whatever it is that we do as far as the event. And we need that. And that's what a nation is. You know what I'm saying? Not to be too long-winded on that. But one of the other things I was saying is when I first came into truth, it was more brothers than families. And it was rugged. You know what I mean? Like you know, you came around and it was like the barracks. But now as time goes on, you're starting to see like the family element get involved. Because, you know what I'm saying, thanks to Captain Nazariak, he and his oils, I don't know if he's on here, if he wants to, you know what I'm saying, give the plug himself. I'm sure he's got 20% off right now. Because he got 20% off every time I talk to him. But when you take a look even at the oils that he's gotten so on, he'll say he's responsible for the baby boom. Everybody's been having kids in Israel. You know what I mean? And so there's more families, the nation's growing to a point where if we can't fish them out the world, we'll build this nation on our own by being fruitful and multiplying and instilling this in our children. You know what I'm saying? And raising them up in the generations to come. Like, one way or another, we're going to build this nation and get out of captivity. But now, you know, you go to the cookouts, there's bounce houses, there's piñatas that look like Donald Trump and white Jesus. It's a complete family affair because we're really building a nation here. So sisters have a place and have a role too, but we're not going to confuse them. We're not going to blur the gender roles or the gender lines. You know what I'm saying? Because that is a part of that same blasphemy we read inside that scriptures, where a woman looks like young M.A., where what the hell is his name? Caitlyn Jenner. Bruce Jenner goes from an Olympian on the Wheaties boxes to Epstein's Woman of the Year. These are the blasphemies that this beast does, turning homosexuality into a alternative lifestyle. Like, all of these different things are the blasphemies and the lies that he spews throughout the entire planet, throughout the earth, that we have to combat, that we have to push up against, because if not, silence is agreement. You understand? We need a pushback.
Con.
So with that being said, is there any other questions in the room? If anybody wants to raise their hand and come up, if you got any questions. Speak now, forever hold your peace. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and conclude the class. This is I.S.U.P.K's Boston class. It will be every single Wednesday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Subscribe to Boston No Cowards for all camp videos as well as classes. And if you're in the New England area, you understand, you can definitely contact us. We're doing classes 4 days a week. We're also going to have upcoming food drives in Roxbury over at the bus station. And every Saturday, Lord willing, we'll be speaking in downtown Crossing. We were just there last Saturday. So if y'all want to come out, if y'all want to come break bread with us, whatever the case may be, you know what I'm saying, we'll be at downtown Crossing every weekend from 1 p.m., you understand, weather permitting and Lord allow, all right? All right, so with that, Yahweh Shem Shabrak Thumb to all my brothers, Yahweh Shemal Thub, Hashem Yahushua, all my sisters, and big ups to you, Tawada, you know what I'm saying, Kabah for reading and holding it down for me, Yak, all right?
Con, the word.
All right, All right, Shalom.